This is the time when you need to report taxes. In the previous video, we told you what exactly expenses you need to report to minimize your tax base legally so you keep most of your money and reinvest it in your business. Now, you probably have a question. Okay, I have the receipts and all these expenses in front of me. What do I do with that to report it properly so I don't pay these taxes so high and make it all right? Well, here today, we're going to discuss how to prepare Schedule C and report all your expenses so you can identify in front of IRS your tax base amount that you will use to pay your taxes from. And here with me today, Tigran Kharatunyan, tax advisor who advises many companies on this specific thing. And you might be one of those who would be in touch with Tigran in future. But today we're going to show you how you can do it yourself. So sounds awesome, right? So before we get started, I want you to press the like button right now. Please do it. This is the button over here, please. This is really important because algorithms of YouTube will help others to see this video as well. And let's get started right now. Tigran, hi, how are you? Good to have you with us.
Yes, thank you for having me. Yes, so if you didn't grow up in the United States or you haven't lived here for a while, the very notion of filing personal taxes can be just as foreign as maybe spelling favorite without you. However, in the United States, it is very common, it's just part of everyday life that sometime in April you have to file your taxes. Now, it has some downside, puts additional burden on working people. However, um, what's the pros of filing your taxes is that you get actually a lot of good deductions. And also, if you have a sole proprietorship, you don't really have to register or file a separate tax return, so you can include all together in your general taxes. Now, obviously, it can take forever to discuss every aspect of tax returns. However, in this series, we want to start discussing the schedules, right? So what are schedules? It's basically a sheet of paper where you make some calculations, right? So you start with how much money you had, how much money you spent, and then how much money you're left with, right? And whatever you're left with is generally transferred to the main tax form, right, which is 1040. Uh, and then of that money, you pay your taxes. Now, the most common, the most famous schedule is the Schedule C, which is used by sole proprietorships and also single member LLCs. Schedule C is used to report your income generated for small business that is not incorporated. Uh, so we are going to show you the Schedule C, and we're going to fill that out for an imaginary client. You will obviously need the Schedule C. All you have to do is just Google Schedule C PDF, and in most cases you'll see it will be on the top of the search. So you will see something like this: Schedule C, Form 1040, profit or loss from business. And 2022, just make sure it's the current year. Now, 1040, it's the main tax form, right? So this is the form where all your income is gathered together and taxes are paid, right? So you may have income from small business, you may have income from investment, you may have income from employment. So all together, you will combine them, and then you'll figure out your personal taxes, right? So, but in today's video, we're going to figure out how businesses will calculate their income and to transfer the net income to the main 1040 form. So that's why it's a Schedule C Form 1040. All right, so also you will need to pull up instructions to the Schedule C because you will have questions while filling this out. So all you have to do, Google instructions for Schedule C, just make sure it's 2022 and make sure it's from IRS's website. It's a pretty long file. However, you can navigate it pretty easily. So I will show you how to navigate through this as well. All right, so let's start filling this out. Now, self-intuitive name of the proprietor. This is an imaginary client, Jane Doe. We'll put the client social security number. Let's say it's the PI number, etc., etc. Now, A, principal business or profession, including product or service. So you don't have to be precise. Just, you, to the best of your knowledge, you can use bakery. Now, enter codes from instructions. Now, this is the first time we'll be using the instructions. So let's open the file. Let's go back to the business codes. In the very bottom of the instructions, you see principal or business or professional activity. So from here, you can select one that better conforms. Now, doesn't have to be an exact match, so just do your best to find it, right? So if it's a bakery, if it's retail, you can probably look up somewhere here, right? You can try.
Let's do technology companies.
Technology company. Well, she has a bakery, but sure, yeah, let's do a technology company. Okay, so and also just one more thing, if you don't know, if you can't find the code, you can just put all nines, that will also work, and then it will be other. So where do you see technology companies? Did you see something or?
No, I haven't seen it, but probably.
Okay. So I mean, if it's like technical services, you can use something from here, right? Or you can use software development, right? So again, it's pretty easy. And if you're a little bit confused about this, don't be. It's pretty easy. So for in this case, let's just choose it's a as a retailer, say 445100. Okay. Now the business name. So let's do those. Uh, Now, EIN, use this only if you have a separate EIN for the business. If you're using your own social, and sole proprietors and single member LLCs are allowed to use their own social as a tax ID, you don't have to put a separate EIN. However, if you chose to get an EIN to keep your social private, you could do that as well. So you will put your EIN, whatever it is, right? Now, business address, best city on the moon. Yeah, you can put your home address. You can put just an address where you can easily receive communication, and the state, etc., etc. Right now, accounting method. Now, there are two general methods: cash and accrual. Most small businesses, especially if it's a retail trade, even technology companies, they will use cash. Cash means you register income when you receive money, and you also deduct spending when you actually spend money. So for instance, I get paid today, even for something I did a month ago, I register as if I got paid today. Whereas if I'm using accrual, I will register my income a month ago, right? So, and this is important when we are kind of on the edge of the year, at the end of the year. Let's say I provide services on December 20th, and then I don't get paid until January 5th. If I'm using accrual method, I have to report an income this year, right? However, if I'm using the cash method, I will report income in January because I actually get paid, right? And same way when I spend money, right? So let's say it's cash. Now, did you materially participate in the operation of the business during 2022? Now, in most cases, the answer is yes. You were involved in the business. If you started the business in 2022, check here. Now, obviously, if you started in 2022, you would say yes. Let's say she had the business for a while. Did you make any payments in 2022 that would require you to file 1099? So generally, if you paid someone more than $20,000, that's not your employee, you will send them a 1099. In some cases, that threshold is 600. So let's say she did not have any contractors. So we'll say no. And then if yes, did you file forms 1099? In this case, the answer is no, it doesn't apply to us. Okay, now let's start from the gross income. And also, I want to show you how to use the instructions, right? So let's open the instructions. Let's go scroll all the way up. Now a little bit down. Here you can see line A, right? So describe business or profession, right? So we go back line A. So it tells us what to do on line A if we have any confusion about this. Now, if we scroll down line 1, we were interested. So enter gross receipts from your trade or business. Be sure to check any Forms 1099 you received for business income that must be reported on this line, right? And et cetera, et cetera. So anytime we're not sure about what the line is, or what this line wants us to do, we can always check the instructions. And even though it's a large file, we can navigate very easily if we know what line we're looking for. We're looking line 1, exactly tells us what to do. So in our case, let's say the gross income was $200,000. Now, returns and allowances. Now, I don't want to go to instructions anytime. Returns and allowances are not that important, so we'll just put 0. So we still have $200,000. The gross profit will be $200,000, and then the gross income will be $200,000. All right, now let's get back to the expenses. So this is the most important part, because obviously as a business owner, you want to deduct as much as possible because you want your net income to be as low as possible, right? So now let's start from the advertising. And again, if you want to know more about the expense, you go to the instructions, right? So go to part 2, expenses. It starts from line 2 apparently, but again, like, well, because line 1 is very self-intuitive, but still. All right, so okay, so advertising right now, obviously this is easy. If you did Facebook advertising, you did YouTube advertising, you did, you just printed some flyers, paid someone to basically advertise your business, you deducted. Like, let's say we spent $1,000 on advertising. Next one, now current track expenses. Now, this is very important, and on our previous video, we actually went over how to deduct current track expenses. And it's important to understand that there are 2 general ways to figure out how much is spent on a car. Now, generally speaking, when the car is used for business, when you drive your car for business, it could be used to deliver product, it could be used for meeting your clients, etc., etc. All the miles driven can be deducted. Right now, standard deduction or the standard method is when you deduct 62.5 cents per mile driven as of 2022. So let's say you drove the car for 10,000 miles for business, you will have 6,250 in deductions. So another way will be, and this was also covered in our previous video, to take the actual expenses, which is gas, oil change, insurance, other maintenance, and also the depreciation of the car. Now, most small business owners don't use this because they just don't drive that much, right? And you can always go back to our previous video to see how this is done, how the calculations are done, right? But for small businesses, it's a very straightforward method. You will use 62.5 cents per mile driven, and it's very simple. Now, commissions and fees, right? So now, generally speaking, commissions and fees, this is not where you put your employee pay. Commissions and fees usually refer to some sales personnel, some who are not your employees. It may refer to your bank that charges you fees for transactions. It may refer to a lot of stuff that are not your employees of contract, your employees, right? So basically, let's say if there is some sort of booking service and that booking service charges you a fee anytime that someone books a reservation in your restaurant, um, then that's the commission, right? So I mean, so let's say there was $2,000 in commissions and fees, right? Now, contract labor. Now, let's look at the instructions for this one, right? Because this is a little complicated. So enter the cost of the contract labor for the tax year. Now, contract labor includes payments to persons you do not treat as employees, so independent contractors, for services performed for your trade or business. Now, it is important to understand the difference between employees and contractors, right? So employees work for you, you have full control over them, you have to pay them regularly, you have to pay them at least the minimum wage, you have to deduct taxes. In many cases, many states will require you to provide them with health insurance and retirement plans, and they're protected by many employee anti-discrimination laws. On the other side, on the other hand, you have a lot of control over employees. You can tell them when to show up to work, you can tell them to wear uniforms, you can um, pretty much control every aspect of their work, right? But this is not the these are not the contract employees, right? So contractors, this is not the contract labor, right? So independent contractors are people who provide you with some services. However, you don't have direct control over them, right? So good example of an independent contractor would be a driver that delivers stuff for you, but also delivers stuff for other, let's say, bakeries, right? So you don't really have control over the driver's schedule. So basically you tell them, hey, I want you to deliver this product to this person within this time frame, right? And that's all. You can't, and that will fall under the characterization of independent contractors. So let's say, because we chose here that there were no independent contractors, basically, so we'll leave it 0. We'll say there was no contract labor. Depletion and depreciation. So if we go too much in detail about this, we'll spend a lot of time, right? And don't do this on your own. Just talk to an accountant. So basically, if you own any property that's expected to last for more than a year, such as buildings, such as machines, you need to depreciate them, right? So you spend $10,000 to buy an equipment, say a refrigerator, you can deduct all $10,000. You have to depreciate it. There are many ways to do so. So please consult an accountant for this one, right? So this is a little complex. Let's say there was $1,000 in depletion, right, in general. Now, employee benefit programs, right? So this is generally when you offer your employees things like health insurance, things like, well, retirement plans are not really, they're covered on line 19, but things like gym membership, you pay their phone bill. So let's say she has an employee and she paid her employee's phone bill for like $500 a year, right? Now, insurance. This is not your health insurance, so it's important to understand that. This is your business insurance, right? So liability insurance, et cetera, right? So for instance, if there's a fire, right, and all your stuff burns, right? So what are you gonna do? You buy an insurance for your business. So let's say another $1,500 went on insurance, right? Now, interest. This is an interest charged by banks, right? So it could be a mortgage interest. So if you have financed a building that's used for your business and you're paying interest on it, that interest is obviously tax deductible as a business expense, right? Or if you have any credit card debts, if you have any bank loans for your business, interest is also deductible, right? That will be deductible under other, right? And by the way, if you have a car loan and the car is being used for your business, interest on the car is also deductible, right? So let's say um, she has a credit card debt of $10,000. That's a business credit card, and she paid $2,000 in credit card interest. Now, legal and professional fees, right? So you hire a lawyer, you hire an accountant, you hire other people who do some stuff for your business. That involves usually preparation of paperwork or like, so yeah, that can be tax deductible. Also, different fees, right, paid to legal entities, such as paying for your license, paying your franchise tax, right, that sort of stuff, right? Um, so let's say there's $3,000 in small business fees. Now, office expenses, right? So this is obviously very common. That will be your printer, your office supplies, could be your Wi-Fi, could be your phone bill, right? That's used directly for the business, right? So let's say altogether this was like $10,000. Now, pension and profit sharing plans. Um, Generally, this refers to whenever there is a retirement plan through the business for yourself or for your employees. So this can be directly deducted. Let's say there is a retirement plan, and let's say there's $3,000. Now, rent or lease. Vehicle, machinery, and equipment. So let's say you have a restaurant. You didn't buy your refrigerator, you didn't buy your oven. You actually instead you are leasing it. You will you can deduct the lease on this line, right? So, or other business property, right? So this is where you would put actually your rent of the space itself, right? So here we can say, and this probably will be the highest expense in this case. Let's say she's paying $3,000 a month, so total of $36,000. Now, repairs and maintenance, right? So anytime you do repairs or you have to maintain the space, um, all these expenses are tax deductible as well, right? So let's say another $5,000. Supplies, right? So these are generally speaking everyday supplies for your business. Again, since we're talking about a restaurant example, it will be forks and knives, the utensils, and all that stuff you buy directly related to providing service, right? Or even indirectly related. So let's say another $3,000 on supplies, right? Now, taxes and licenses. So we spoke about some of those on line 17, but you can also use the line 23 to deduct some of those license fees and taxes. So let's say the city also took to sell alcohol in the bakery, you also had to pay $10,000 a year. So we're deducting that as well. Travels and meals. So important to know, when you're traveling for your business, you can generally deduct expenses. Now, car expenses are already deducted here, but if you're taking Uber, you can deduct it here, right? Also, if you're staying in a hotel for a business purpose, it can be deducted here, right? So let's say $500. Now, deductible meals are whenever you're meeting with a client or, I don't know, with a business partner, um, or you are traveling so far that you can't really go back home to have food. In that case, you can also deduct the meal as a business expense, but you can only deduct 50%. So for example, right, so you had to travel um, out of state. Now, obviously, you can't go back home for your lunch break, so you have to go eat somewhere else, right? So that will be tax deductible. However, just 50%, right? Because there's also some personal value in eating food. So generally speaking, you spend, say, $50 on food. When you're traveling out of state, you get to deduct $25, right? Utilities, this is your electricity bill, this is your water bill. It's getting more and more expensive, so let's be very optimistic and say $2,000. Now, wages, and this is where you pay your employees, right? So for instance, well, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Obviously, we'll have a video where we'll cover how to put employees on a payroll, but generally speaking, this is the gross amount. It also includes things like health insurance. If you're paying your employees health insurance premiums, you can also deduct it here. So it's, let's say, $60,000 to the employee, right? And other expenses, obviously, you can put something else um, that's not specified here. Okay, now here we're going to, and by the way, yeah, if you're using the other expenses, you have to kind of break them down on line 48. So you have to pretty much describe, right? So something, and then you write like $10, something else, $20, and then you pretty much summarize your other expenses here. Now, once we have our total expenses, let's do the math. So generally speaking, when you're using software, it will do it for you. But in this case, since we're not using any software, we're just filling it out. We just have to use a calculator. So just give me a second.
Let's do it the old way. And while Tigran is calculating these guys, of course, please press the like button, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel. And if you would have any questions, just go in our comments, ask your questions below, and Tigran and I will be happy to help you.
All right, so hopefully I got this right. So it's 146,775 in expenses, which means the tentative net profit is 53,225. Now, here, why it's tentative, because you can, some small businesses can also deduct use of their business home. Now, you can refer to our previous video. Basically, if your house is used, or some part of your house, to be more specific, is used for business exclusively, you can deduct that, right? So refer to the previous video for more details. But in this case, because the bakery, it's not using its house, and just because sometimes you may do some work at home that generally doesn't qualify as a business use of a home, right? So that's why we'll say 0. So the net profit will be just as much as the tentative profit. So this is the net profit for the business. So this is how much tax the business owner must pay. This is the business taxable income on which the business owner must pay federal income tax, state income tax, and also self-employment taxes. Now, a few other things. This is the cost of goods sold. So um, here, the way you would do this, right? So let's say, again, we put 0 for simplicity, but if you have, if basic cost of goods sold is the cost of whatever it takes to produce, to make your products, right? The direct cost, right? So it cannot be indirect costs such as electricity, such as the rent. But let's say if I'm making hot dogs, basically the bread that's used, the bun that's used, it will be included in the cost of goods sold, right? So let's say average hot dog, okay, we'll have a cost of a bun, which is 50 cents, then the sausage, which is another 50 cents, then the condiments, which is, let's say, okay, $1, and then a napkin, that's 25 cents. So total $2.25 will be our cost of goods sold. And then I sold like 10,000 hot dogs. So my cost of goods sold will be pretty much 22,500. And then I could include it here as pretty much cost of goods sold as another expense, right? So just for simplicity, we didn't do it here. And another part 4, this is also important. So since we claimed car expenses, we have to put information about the car, right? So let's say the car was placed in business in January 1st of 2019. Now, 6,250. So because there was 10,000 miles driven for business, let's say another 2,000 miles for commute, and then 5,000 miles for something else. Now, IRS understands that small business owners cannot really know exactly how much they drove, even though they're required to put a log of mileage. But if it's a little bit off, generally IRS will let you have a little bit of flexibility there, right? So again, if it's just a little bit off, that's fine, right? So technically you're not supposed to, but you'll be fine. Was your vehicle available for personal use? Now, if it's a car you use both for business or personal, you will say yes. Do you or your spouse have another vehicle available for personal use? The answer will be, let's say, yes, there's another car in the household. Now, here, do you have evidence to support your deduction? You better have evidence. And then is the evidence written? Yes, when it says written, they're referring to mile logs, right? So basically, you need to have a spreadsheet, right? Or you can use, there are a lot of apps that also help you with that, but you can use a basic Excel spreadsheet where you put, okay, January 1st, 2023, drove 10 miles for business, right? January 2nd, 2023, drove 5 miles for business, right? So that's something IRS wants to see, to really believe that you drove all those miles, right? So that's what they mean when they say drivable. Now, we can stop here. So as I said, this is start of our series on schedules. So we'll do a couple of more schedules in the future videos. And then once we're done with all schedules, I'll show you how those schedules are combined in the main tax return, right? Okay.
So that's quite the work they have to do, but so quite straightforward as well that you explained. My question to you, what are the most common questions you receive from startup entrepreneurs when you're filling out their forms, if any of those questions have? Because I'm sure there are plenty. And what are the most common ones you receive and how you answer them?
So most common ones are whether car expenses can be deducted, whether business use of home can be deducted, employee costs, contractor costs, and the cost of goods sold, right? So because let's be honest, these are the main expenses businesses have, right? So especially if you're a small business, well, rent is pretty straightforward. I mean, yeah, you pay rent for the space, you just deduct it, right? But then there are your employees you have to pay. You use cars, right, to transport stuff, or you use equipment, right? Um, yeah, so these are probably the most common ones, and also the highest expenses. You don't care much about how your phone bill, because $500 extra deduction won't change much. But if you can deduct extra $20,000 on your car, that's probably gonna um, switch your tax liability in your favor.
You mentioned that there will be some other Schedule Cs and some other schedules we will cover in future. What are those schedules? Why you separate them? And so what's gonna be expected in future by the viewers?
Yeah. So basically, as we said, the main tax form, right, that every individual who has income in the United States files is called 1040, right? So 1040 summarizes incomes from different sources, right? So average person may have income from their full-time job, then have a side gig business, so may have a business income, and also may have traded stock market or crypto. So that may be another source of income, right? Now, so you don't have to do too many calculations on the form 1040 to make it more simple. There are schedules, and each schedule is used to determine your net income from certain activity. For instance, Schedule C, as we just learned, is used to figure out your net income from your small business. Now, Schedule D is used to figure out your net income from investments. Schedule E is used to figure out your income from net income from passive activities, such as when you rent out your house, right? So we will go over those schedules too. And when we're done, we'll look at the form 1040 and how the schedules are actually combined together on the form 1040, and we'll see how to figure out the tax.
Got it. Thank you so much, Tigran. So here we discussed Schedule C and specifically how you, an entrepreneur, can fill it out for your small business, avoiding extra expenses on consultants. If you can try doing it yourself, we try to be as detailed as possible. So please ask your questions here in the chat, because we will try to help you, and we will definitely give you examples or answers to your questions, because how it is, entrepreneurs should help entrepreneurs, and we are there for you. Now, if you have any other specific topics you want us to cover, let us know. We will help. And finally, before this video, we had the other video about what expenses you need to report so you can write off your taxes. And go on our YouTube channel and see the previous video. This will help you to identify those expenses properly. And then you can take those expenses into this form that we just went through and identify your taxable base so that the amount of money you pay taxes from. Now, the other important announcement that we had a full video of how to file your taxes yourself, and it's also on our YouTube channel from February, I think, of 2022. It's a very popular video on our channel because many entrepreneurs already saved a lot of money just going through the steps we did. If you would have any questions or need on that, go in there, we'll answer the questions or use the video. Maybe it will help you to report your taxes like this. Finally, don't forget to press the like button. This is important, guys, super important for us, and the YouTube algorithm will show this to other entrepreneurs. Of course, share it on your social media to help others, and subscribe to the channel. And we look forward to seeing you. If you would have any questions to me, Tigran, or to my team, go on our website, goglobal.world, or you can email us at info@goglobal.world, and we'll answer your questions. And finally, that we will put all the links that Tigran used today here in the comments. And if you need something else, let us know. On this note, Tigran, thank you so much for your help. And I'll let everyone go. So take care, and we'll see you in the other videos because we will follow with other schedules for you. Take care, guys.